Hello all, this is your Professor Ian. This is my Intro to Argumentation lecture. The PowerPoint slides are also available if you would prefer to just go through those. I'll go through the slides and explain the thinking and have a little conversation. So let's go through them. Now, before you get into these slides, you should be starting with this video first, which I posted as well. It's a classic Monty Python skit called The Argument Clinic, where you have John Cleese. He's this man here, and you have Michael Palin, the guy standing whose head is cut off in this screen. They're having an argument at this rather absurd idea of an argument clinic. And what we get here is two very different ideas of what an argument should be. John Cleese is very much just contradicting what Michael Palin says. Michael Palin says, oh, well, this isn't an argument. And John Cleese says, yes, it is. That's his version of an argument. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Just contradicting each other. Michael Palin has a much different idea of what an argument is. He puts forth a couple ideas, right? That argument is more than mere contradiction. That's what John Cleese is doing, just merely contradicting Michael Palin's character. So Michael Palin is saying that an argument is more than that. An argument is, in his words, a collected series of statements to establish a definite proposition, right? So it's not necessarily nipping at each other, going back and forth and fighting, right? Often when we think of the word argument, we think of the word fight. In Michael Palin's definition, that's not quite capturing what an argument fully is. And that's where we're going to bounce off of for this course. Like I said, oftentimes we think of an argument as a fight, but an argument isn't necessarily oppositional in that sense. It doesn't have to be. It often is, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to say make a couple claims. Claim number one, arguments are more than mere contradiction, right? So the Monty Python video, they involve claims about meaning in the world. So arguments can be mere contradiction. You are technically arguing, but an argument that as we use it in kind of an academic rhetorical sense, is about making a claim about meaning in the world. Okay. Claim number two, arguments are an essential and instinctive activity. We're always making arguments every day. There's a famous textbook on rhetoric called Everything's an Argument, and I really like that. I really love that title for the textbook because I totally agree. Everything is an argument. We are always making arguments about meaning in the world in our daily lives. The car we drive, the clothes we wear, etc., etc. Claim number three, meaning depends on context, perspective, and form. Arguments are often framed or presented in such a way that certain values or stakes are introduced and specific points of views or conclusions are emphasized. So in other words, it matters when we make an argument, how we make an argument, to whom we make an argument, to whom we don't make an argument, right? All of these things are part of the actual content of the message. And that's where we get into a lot of the things we're going to be talking about in this course. It's not enough just to talk about the actual content of an argument, X is true because Y. It's all the things surrounding that is really interesting to us as we study rhetoric. How do you pitch your voice? Do you use emotion? Do you use body language? All of these things that go that surround the content of an argument. So let's look at a couple examples of kind of everyday things and think about the arguments that are being made. Okay, so a Panthers Chaffey cap, or a Chaffey Panthers cap, I should say, not a Panthers Chaffey cap. Chaffey Panthers cap, if I'm wearing this, I'm making certain arguments. I'm making an argument that Chaffey's a good place, right? I don't wear a hat of a place I hate, right? So I like Chaffey. Maybe I support the sports team, right? Some pretty simple, straightforward arguments. Maybe I went there as a student, not necessarily, but perhaps. And if I'm wearing this to a Panthers game that I'm showing support for my team, imagine I'm wearing it to a team of a game at an opposing team's arena. Right? It's going to be taken in a different way, or at least it's going to be emphasized more because of the context in which I'm wearing the hat. Okay, and here's some people dressed as punks, right? The mohawks and the leather, the band T-shirts, all black and white, and I guess she's got red on, but a lot of dark colors, kind of gothy look, right? The big boots. So there's a lot of messages they're sending out with their clothing, the kind of clothing they choose to wear. If you saw this group of people walking down the street in Rancho Cucamonga, that would be one thing, and it would be they would stand out perhaps, right? It's a pretty extreme thing to wear on just walking down a suburban street. perhaps. But if you look around them, right, in the background of this picture, they seem to be at some kind of like Nine Inch Nails concert or something, or whatever young goths listen to these days. It's probably more a band for my generation. But you know, you can see people dressed in similar ways. So you know, this foursome here, in the context of this concert, you know, this is not an outrageous way to be dressing, right? So if you saw them in the street, that might be one statement they're making, whereas if they're at a concert like this, very different context. Let's look at another one. Yes, Colin Kaepernick's jersey. Obviously, wearing this in different situations is going to have very loaded messages, right? He's a controversial figure, become more controversial, I suppose, lately. So, you know, wearing this has different meanings. It has changed over time, right? When Colin Kaepernick was first in the league, before, you know, the controversy over him kneeling during games, this wouldn't have been that big a deal to wear his jersey. It would just meant you supported him as a player, or you liked the 49ers or whatever. But now that he's become this political figure, to wear his jersey takes on different meanings. I remember when that controversy was first building, people were buying this jersey in order to burn it. They were having big bonfires and burning Colin Kaepernick jerseys, which seems like, you know, a total waste of money to me. But you can see how the same object is being used for different political messages, right? If you wear this around, you're saying you support his political message. It would be hard, you know, it would be hard to wear this jersey these days, and if you just wanted to support the 49ers or Colin Kaepernick's skill as a quarterback, right? People would not read this jersey as sending out that message, as making that argument about the world. So the context surrounding Colin Kaepernick has changed, and therefore, you know, if you were to wear the jersey, a different argument would be made. Let's look at one last example. You know, the cars we drive. I drive a beat-up Nissan Sentra because I don't really care about cars, but some people put a lot of value in cars. They spend a lot of money. They lease new cars, like a Tesla electric car or a giant truck. I see giant trucks in my neighborhood all the time. You know, there are different values associated with these things. Trucks are generally seen as kind of masculine, big work vehicles. So I see a lot of people who don't have very physical jobs. You know, there's a police officer who lives up the street from me. He doesn't, you know, he drives to work and then he drives a police cruiser around. He doesn't have a trailer, and yet he wants to have a giant truck. So what is the value he's associating with that truck? Does he just like the look of it? Why does he like the look of it, right? There are different arguments that he's making about what he values in the world by his car choice and everything else that he chooses to do. Similarly, if I were to spend a lot of money and get a Tesla car, what am I saying? Am I buying it for a status symbol? Am I buying it because I believe in electric energy? Right? There's a number of different ways to take that. And again, context is key here. Not everybody has these vehicles for the same reason. My brother-in-law drives a giant truck, but that's because he delivers machine parts. So he needs a giant truck, and his company pays for it. So different contexts make different arguments. Okay, that's the end of part one. I'll take this up again with part two.